Welcome back. All right, let's go ahead and let's make in and spawn our blocks here. So in order to do that, let's add in a function here. We'll call this spawn blocks. Okay, and we're going to do exactly that. We're going to say block is equal to sk sprite node, and we're going to add in a UI color and a CG size. So the UI color is going to be what we're going to do is we're going to add in an RGBA value. Or we could add in, for example, another color here, like a block color. So let me explain what I'm going to do here. So it's going to add in kind of a random color, okay? And I'm going to say that the var red is equal to int arc for random underscore uniform. And we're going to make this in between 255. What that's going to do is that's going to add in 255 is going to be kind of a number between 0 and 255. And I'm using 255 because it's something like you would see in Illustrator. Then I'm going to divide it by 2. Okay, and let me set up the colors first and I'll explain what I'm doing after that. Okay, so let's add in green, and essentially we can copy and paste this because it's exactly the same thing. Green and then var blue. Okay, it's not too complicated, just like that here. But then what we're going to do is we're going to add in we'll call this var temp color is equal to UI color, and we're going to add in our RGBA values. Now, what we're going to do here is we have to add in our base color. Now remember we set up this base color at the top here. So what we want is we want our colors to be on the lighter side. So since the UI color has a value between 0 and 1, the closer you are to 1, the lighter color is going to be. Remember, we have a dark background, so that means the blocks should be light. And we're going to go for kind of a pastel color here, okay? So what we can do is we could set up this CG float here, okay? And we could add in a couple of things here. First of all, we could add in a CG float, all right? Because it's asking for this to be a CG float. So instead of converting it to integer, we're going to make it a CG float. Now, in addition to that, we could add in the base color to each of this here, okay? So we're doing all of our addition here. So what this is going to do is it's going to pick a number between 0 and 255, and then it's going to add in 0.5 to that, okay? Now, if you really want to, you can lower this number because, for example, there's going to be a lot of whites in this. So that's why we divide it by 2. You can divide it by 1 or divide it by 3 to randomize it. But for now, this will work here. So all we need to do is go red, green, and blue. Some people like to do red temp to show that red is actually a temporary variable. Okay, so we're just using this on the fly here. Let's do that just because well, in this case, it might make a bit more sense, but some people like to do that. Some people just like to use RGB. And the alpha, we don't really need to change here. It's going to be 1.0. However, it'd be kind of cool to make a game where all the blocks are somewhat different transparencies. Okay, so we now have our color, which is kind of neat. And what we need to do is we need to add in the position here. Okay, so we're going to say var or block, and actually what we need to do is move this below. Okay, so this UI color is going to be temp color, and the CG size is going to be block size. Okay, we all set that up earlier. So let's go to block dot position dot x. Okay, so we're going to set the position of x and y here. Okay, and then we're going to say this is touch location dot x, and then we're going to add in a block here dot position dot y is equal to bracket touch location dot y. Now you're probably wondering, wait a minute, we never had in any kind of touch location. We haven't done that yet. Now what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to change this to both question marks, and I'm going to add an exclamation point here. Okay. So let's go up and let's add in our touches began here. So instead of let location, we're going to change this to touch location. So every time we touch, we're setting whatever the last touch was to touch location. Okay. Then what we need to do is we need to add in, for example, our code that will say we'll spawn a block here. So we'll say if is spawning is double equal to true. Okay. Then we'll say spawn block. And let's just call it spawn block, because technically we're not spawning blocks, we're spawning block. Okay. Now it's giving you a warning here, and it just says replace it with let, and it's just because we're not using it over and over again. So you're more than welcome to change that up here. All right, so we got spawn block, and remember these are constants, so constants you can't change. So with these temporary variables, you can go and just simply add that in here. So we now have that spawn block is equal to true, and when spawn block is equal to true, it's just going to spawn a block on the position. Okay, let's add in a block here, and we need to add in some physics body here. Okay, so we're going to say block is equal to sk physics body, and we're going to say that this is rectangle of size block dot size. Then we're going to add in a block here, and we're going to say dot affected or dot physics body dot affected by gravity is equal to true. Okay, we do want this we do want it to have happen here. Okay, so we got the physics body is equal to true here, and we're going to say score is equal to score plus 1. So every time you press the button here, it will add 1 to score. Okay. Then we're going to go to self dot add child, and we're going to say that this is block. We need to add in the block here. Now there's a couple things that we need to do. First of all, let's go and we need to set up the two labels here. Okay. And what we're going to do is we're going to add in a function here called update score, and we'll say lbl score dot text is equal to score, like that. Okay, and we'll say score just like that here. Okay, so this concludes the tutorial.